Is it good now? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Nice work for breaking veto, but I believe it's working now. I hope for the people that can't join right now will be able to join. Anyway, we'll have a replay later. Also, thank you for Vue School for organizing this. I know it's not easy, but still they are doing it. So thank you. So today I'm going to talk about Nuxt 3, as you can guess. I'm Sébastien Chopin, but you already know this. So Nuxt is a web framework to create any kind of Vue application. I'm sure most of you already know this since you know Vue. We can create single page application, also called SPA, or multi-page application by disabling server-side rendering. But by default, we server and pre-render the Vue application on the server part, so the visitor can get the full HTML, which is great for SEO, any crawler, and also the user experience. We announced Nuxt 3 beta in October 2021. So 400 days later, with close to 3,000 pull requests, 4,000 issues, and I'm only talking about the Nuxt 3 repository, 220 contributors that pushed to the repo, 14 release candidates. It's time for another release candidate. No, I cannot hear you laugh. It's too bad. It's time for Nuxt 3 stable version. The framework team has been working really hard on this. Also, some member of the NuxtLabs team has been pushing a lot this new website, using Nuxt content, using Nuxt 3 and new features to make sure that we are testing the framework as much as possible. So you can check out nuxt.com for the documentation of Nuxt 3. And if I may, I also need to check. Yes, we do have the 3.0 stable article made by Pinia that I recommend you to read. And yes, no, let's not get distracted. I will tweet that it's live. There is a video, so it takes a bit of time. Feel free to like. We really like your support for so long. And let's get back to the slides before I spoil anything else. So since it's more than 6 years now, we have seen 57 million downloads on NPM, more than 300 live websites that we can analyze with build with, and more than 20,000 contributors across all the ecosystem. So thank you for being with us for so long, and for the newcomer, welcome. So what's the difference between Nuxt 2 and Nuxt 3? In case you missed my talk at Vue.js Amsterdam. Obviously, Nuxt 2 use Vue 2 and Nuxt 3 use Vue 3. It doesn't mean that Nuxt 4 will use Vue 4. From now on, we will have faster release cycles. So expect Nuxt 4 being released if there is any of breaking change that we believe are important, or one of our dependencies, such as Vite, also bring a breaking change. As a web server, we use Connect, which is also used by Express.js. But for Nuxt 3, we wrote our whole server to use H3, which is one of the fastest JavaScript framework now and works in any environment, Node and Cloudflare workers, for instance. On the bundler part, Webpack 4, and on Nuxt 3, by default, we decided to go with Vite, but we can also support Webpack 5 with the work done by Unplugin. Vue Router 3 for Nuxt 2, Vue Router 4 for Nuxt 3, which is not included by default if you don't have a pages directory. Vue Meta for Nuxt 2, and Vue Use Head V1 for Nuxt 3 that landed by the amazing work by Harlan yesterday. Serverless packager, well, we don't have any for Nuxt 2, and there was also a big work done by Pinia with the help of Daniel, which is called Nitro. And it's hard to describe what Nitro is. We call it a serverless packager here, but basically it is your server using H3 under the hood, but also a bundler, which means that when you build your Nuxt application, it will track all the dependencies and deliver an output which is less than 1 megabyte and can be deployed on any platform, including Cloudflare workers. It can even run in a browser worker, but let's not get too far. Difference between Nuxt 2 and Nuxt 3. It's about 91 kilobytes of JavaScript for Nuxt 2 for a Hello World, including all the features you can have, client-side navigation, hydration. And for Nuxt 3, also thanks to the fact that we don't include Vue Router by default and that Vue 3 is lighter, we're about 34 kilobytes of JavaScript. And in these 34 kilobytes, Nuxt is about 8, let's say 9 kilobytes of JavaScript, including the app entry, the app.vue, which is called for us a root component that also wraps suspense and handle all the hydration logic. So you can have server-side rendering and then this hydration, so everything can happen on the client side and giving you this app feeling. On top of this, we have this lightweight router. So you can even use router, the middleware, and Nextlink, even if you don't have a pages directory, which is quite useful if you want to create a learning page that can handle a query parameters. We have this head composable. It's very important when you target SEO and even social sharing. Universal data fetching with $fetch, similar to the fetch API by the browser, but smarter. We have default error pages. We have this plugin system, runtime logic, app config, use Nuxt app composable, and hooks. So you can actually hook into the lifecycle and display loading bar, anything you want. So this is wrapped into this 9 kilobytes. But we also include all the features we have from Nuxt 2, code splitting, tree shaking. We have something that Nuxt 2 doesn't have, is that it's optimized for cold start. We're talking about less than 10 milliseconds to start your Nuxt 3 server in production. Link prefetching, payload extraction for full static, and many more. We also have this hybrid rendering feature, also called SSR, SSG, CSR, ISR, ESR, SWR. I don't know what word they're going to invent next, but basically you have caching on top of this. It can happen on build time, pre-rendering the pages. It can happen with a server. You decide to cache it on a Redis storage. You decide to cache it on a CDN. We support all these strategies. Right now, we call them route rules, and we are eager to hear your feedback to keep improving it. And like the first version of Nuxt, we focus on SEO with the server-side rendering, and we have many more features by collaborating with the Chrome Aurora team to have image optimization and much more. So your website, Google loves your website by default. So Nuxt 3 is a web framework to build any kind of modern website. We also support single page application and server-side, and also hybrid. In the hybrid mode, you can also decide if a specific page has to be with server-side rendering or not. You can imagine a /dashboard page and say, okay, these pages will be only for client-side. That is possible. You can also add logic for this. And we are planning to document everything. The documentation is not done, and it's always evolving. We have this app.vue file, which is your entry point. We didn't have it on Nuxt 2. We added on Nuxt 3. I personally love it. We have the layouts, like you have on Nuxt 2. We have the pages directory with a bit different syntax for the dynamic routes and the wildcard route, but it basically works with the children as well. We have the components directory, and on top of this, we have this auto import. So any components you create in the component directory, you can use it without importing in any other components or pages, layouts, and we will smartly know where you use it or not to add it to your bundle or not. The static directory has been renamed to public. It does the same. It serves any file you put inside. The server directory is new and very powerful. It's based on Nitro as well. It supports hot module replacement, similar to hot module replacement in your Vue component. So you don't need to restart your server. For those people who has done server middleware Nuxt knows what I'm talking about. Now you can basically go full stack with Nuxt, plug a database. There is no limit. And on top of this, the Nuxt server is smart enough to know that if you hit a endpoint, an API endpoint, we won't even load your Vue application. So we are talking about a lazy loading chunk on the server. I think we have done the best for giving you a strong server by default on Nuxt 3. The assets directory is similar to Nuxt 2. You can add any styles, font, CSS, images that will be bundled through Vite or Webpack. We also have a new directory called Composables. So you can create your own Vue composable using the composition API, and they will be auto-imported. And Nuxt is shipped with many composables that helps you, such as use async data, use fetch, or use state for doing data fetching. But we also have use cookie, use server request, and many more. So I recommend you to check out the documentation for this. We have the Nuxt modules like in Nuxt 2. It took us a while, but we decided to bring a new experience to create module called NuxtKit. This allows us to have multiple versions of Nuxt in the future without breaking the module in the long run. So you have many of these modules ready, and you can check out on nuxt.com/modules to see if some are giving you happiness. On this module, we developed Nuxt content, which is basically a way to use it. It creates a content directory. You can add Markdown. We created this MDC syntax, so you can use a Vue component in your Markdown, and we use it for all of our documentations. Because we didn't want to use a CMS, we want to have all of our content for the documentation in Git, so anyone can contribute, and we can also get the whole history and contribution. We are open sourcing some themes. So something I didn't explain is the extends feature that Alexander Lichter will talk later today, which is the fact that you can have multi-apps in your app. So you can extend a Nuxt app. And one of example is Nuxt typography. We are open sourcing today. That is similar to Tailwind typography that you can use with content that will give you a set of prose components, customizable, thanks to the work done by Yael called Penso, which is CSS in JS. I would say CSS in Vue. That is much better. I recommend you to check out. We're also open sourcing another theme called Docus that let you create your documentation. You can think of an alternative to VidPress, but with Nuxt and with the many components shipped, extendable, leveraging typography, and many more features. And also we've been working at NuxtLabs on a way to collaborate and edit our website. So we called it Nuxt.studio. And right now it's in beta, but I can try to make a demo for you. So this is Nuxt typography. This is how you extend it, and this is how you can configure in your tokens.config any configuration you want. You can also change the icon if you want to change this copy button. We also have Docus, which is open now, and happy to get your feedback. And this is Studio. Once you logged in, you can basically create a project, I can choose a theme. So right now I'm inside the staging area, so we don't have many themes. We are exploring. And I can choose content wind, which is a portfolio theme. I will say my portfolio, creating a GitHub repository. If I want to, I can also add to an existing repository, which is quite useful if you want to add a documentation on your Nuxt module or library, anything you want. And let's create a repository. So this is live, so anything can happen. I do hope they have done a good work on this. And I can zoom so everyone can see. So here, not that much. I can deploy on GitHub page, or I can decide to self-host, because Nuxt is not vendor locked in. We want you to deploy anywhere. And because we do like GitHub and they offer free hosting, we have the option to add a GitHub action and let you deploy. So I will check my deployment status. And in the meantime, let's see what I have in my team. So I have many projects here. I can take a look at the content documentation. I have the pull request, the branches, and I can edit on Studio. Right now, this is the code editor, and we are working on this Notion-like editor, mixing Markdown and components. But if you're familiar with the MDC syntax, you should see that. Nuxt Nation. And actually, if I share this link, anyone can see this change live. So if I change here, they will see it as well. And this works on any static hosting, so you don't need to run a server for this. If I go back to my, let's say, Docker documentation, I can check the pull request and see that it's changing. Great. I don't want to have these two favicon here, to favicon two icons. So what I can do is I can open this pull request, remove the icon, save. And if I check out the pull request, it will actually update for us. That's simple. Let's think of editor on top of Nuxt content. And if I go back to my, yes, I should have my portfolio deployed. So if I open it, that should be correct. And I have my website deployed with content wind. And I can say Nuxt empty. Cool. So right now it's in beta. You can sign up on Nuxt.studio. And we are happy to see what you guys are going to build with Nuxt and content. This is, for us, a tool to work faster on our documentation and any content we are doing, as well as open source and non-open source. So feel free to share and sign up. And basically, I think you have enough work, enough stuff to check out. I want to thank you. You can find me on Twitter. You can ping me if you want. I'm @Nux, and happy playing with Nuxt 3.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going through all of that. We do have quite a few questions for you. Do you know of anyone using Nuxt 3 in production and what kind of apps they are building?
I do know that we are using Nuxt 3 in production. You can check out on vuetelescope.com. You can look at Vue 3 and select Nuxt. There are plenty of Nuxt 3 applications, I think more than 1,000 right now. And we developed a product that we use internally to manage all of our work, which is called Volta, VOLTA.net, which is built with Nuxt 3 and is a full-blown Nuxt 3 application using Generate, the hybrid feature, Generate and SPA.
Very cool. And I think that leads into it as well of what's next after the official launch, like any features we should be looking for that you're excited about, or
we have island component, which is really promising, similar to a React server component. But I think I'm quite happy of the work done by Daniel and Pinia on this. And we still have hybrid rendering to improve. Next image, next fonts, a lot of modules that we're going to, now the core is strong, we want to work more on the official module. So next image, next out, next fonts, and see what should be part of the core or what can gravitate around the core of Nuxt. But cool. Authentication is one of the next priority.
Okay. Authentication is important, so excited to hear about that. And why is TypeScript script mode disabled by default?
Because it's too strict. I don't know. That was one of the discussion we had. We want Nuxt to be as easy as possible to get started. We bet on TypeScript. We are happy with this, but we don't want to force TypeScript for all users. So I believe that's why I was not involved that much. I'm not a TypeScript expert, but I believe Daniel or Pinia will be the best to answer you.
Okay, good to know for that one. And I feel like you already answered this question a bit, but I feel like to get the exact answer, what feature are you most excited about?
The extend feature. Honestly, that's I haven't seen any framework having this feature, the ability to extend the Nuxt application and overwrite part of it. And I think the themes are a great example. And any CMS, like Supabase can definitely write on a template, on a theme they can provide, so people can extend, let's say, events platform, and they can override components if they need to. But Supabase can decide to improve the template by releasing new NPM version without having you to. It's like Nuxt module, but for apps. Alex Lichter is going to explain this, but this is for me something I never seen. So.
And I love how you talk about how we're going to be having more people go in depth about a specific subject. So looking forward to Alex's speech. And TurboPack. Are there plans for TurboPack?
It's possible to support TurboPack. It's not in our priorities, but anyone can make a pull request to support TurboPack once TurboPack will support Vue. So basically, we have time. But we can Nuxt 3 support Vite and Webpack 5 thanks to Unplugin. So once TurboPack supports Vue, I don't see any reason why we won't support TurboPack.
Very cool. So what's the plans with Auth module? Is it going to happen anytime soon?
We do have one of the community members, the people from Sidebase.io, which is a Nuxt 3 template, open source Nuxt template, and they worked on a Nuxt Session module and on a Nuxt Out module that is based on Next Out. And we are actually we have an open pull request on Nuxt module, and we are discussing about when we can merge it, because we want it to be good, because once people start to use the Out module, it's hard to change it. So we want to make sure the bundle is correct, the bundle size is correct, and everything works smoothly. But you can check out sidebase.io nuxt.io, and they have an out module you can try.
All right. I like that because it gives us things to look forward to, right? It definitely, we will get there. And what about RBAC? Is that kind of going to be the same type of thing? Where is there a module for the authentication and authorization? I know we kind of talked about that earlier.
I don't know what is RBAC personally. I can take a look at it, but basically, you have to remember that Nuxt 3 is a JavaScript server. So anything you do in the server directory is JavaScript. You don't need to wait for a module to start implementing session or authentication. It's not that hard, actually. There are JavaScript middleware that works. I'm thinking of Iron Session, for instance, that works with Nuxt. We have use cookie. You can set headers. As long as you learn Node.js or JavaScript, it will be easy for you to do any backend stuff on Nuxt. But take a look at the Nuxt session or even the Nuxt out from Sitebase module to understand what's happening under the hood. And when now Nuxt 3 is out, we'll get more time to show how we can do these kind of modules.
Okay. And what about Nuxt Bridge? We do have a bit of context on this question. There seem to be a lot of modules that made the jump to Nuxt 3 without supporting Bridge, thus defeating the original purpose.
Yeah, it's hard. We are not 100 people working on Nuxt. And the difference between Vue 2 and Vue 3 was a big leap. Adding Vite on top of this was another breaking change. Nitro was another one. We don't want to be like AngularJS and Angular. So we decided to work on Bridge, but it's plenty of work. But Daniel is working like hell to make sure Nuxt Bridge helps as many users. For the module, it's hard because you need to ask people to maintain 2 versions, to test on 2 versions. But if there are specific modules that you believe we should support Bridge, please create an issue on Bridge, and we can see how we can prioritize this, or even people from the community helping on that part. But we do need to jump into Vue 3 and Nuxt 3 in the long run.
Yeah. And I feel like that's always something that so many of us forget of. There's not a million people working on a project. These are very slowly built to be able to really make an impact rather than rush it and, you know, have it break. So I really appreciated that answer. And I can only imagine everybody watching has as well. Next up, what's going on with Docus? Is it open, still in beta?
Docus should be open at the moment I speak on docus.dev, https:/docus.dev, and the repo should be open source now. And if not, I will make it open source in a few minutes.
Okay, I like that. I like that. And last question we have so far is, can we integrate documentation with Sphinx?
I don't know. I don't know what is Sphinx. I've heard of it, but I can't remember.
I mean, fair enough. Like, let's put a pin in that one and maybe tweet us about it, so that way we can look into it or put it as an issue to look into later.
Yeah, and definitely.
All right. And then last but not least, what about Nuxt 2? Will it take a long time and effort to migrate large projects? And are there support and strategies to do so?
So Nuxt 2, we plan to have this 2.16, I think. I can't remember the last version since I saw too many Nuxt 3 to support the last version of Vue that will help supporting the composition API. And with Bridge, you can use more and more composition API. We are seeing, for instance, a library from Linusborg for transforming mixin to composition API. It depends how big your project is, and it also depends on how many modules you're using that are not migrated We have been migrating Volta, for instance, from a Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3. It can be really fast if you don't have many dependencies. It can take time. We have a migration guide. We have this Nuxt bridge that helps. And we do have Nuxt experts. So if you take a look on Nuxt.com on the support, we have experts that knows Nuxt 2 and know Nuxt 3 and can help on taking the right decision to save time to migrate from Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3. And there are also these agencies we are collaborating with. So the agencies network that can do offer consulting or services like the custom development to help you migrate as well.
And where are these going to be like announced, or where people can find this? Because I know I can only imagine that it's going to go out on Twitter, you know, it'll be in the readmes and that kind of thing. Is there
Everything
anywhere
is on
else?
Nuxt.com right now.
Okay.
And we will keep improving it.
All right. I have one final question, which is going to be a curveball of what is something that you're grateful for?
My team, honestly, the team and the community. I didn't expect this 6 years ago when I created the first line of Nuxt. From where it started to where I am now, I'm grateful for these kind people helping each other. Yeah, the Vue community is so nice. I don't know about React. I haven't played that much with React, but I won't leave the Vue community.
I hear you. I hear you. And yes, that is something definitely worth being grateful for, of team, and just they help us get so far because we can't get there alone.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Sébastien. And this conference is going to be great. Thank you for kicking us off, especially with such a delay. It's been great having you, and y'all know where to reach out. So if you go to NuxtNation.com, you will be able to see where all of our Twitters, our GitHub, everything you want to look up, you can find us there.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.